For those who are new here, welcome. I'm A1. I'm a day one player. Technically, I started playing before day one because I pre-ordered Fortnite, which allowed me to play the game a few days early. So yeah, I've been here a while. And over the years, I've seen some things. Now, you don't need to pull out your pitchforks. It's not that type of video. In my experience, there's a lot of video game companies out there that are a lot worse than Epic Games. But, and it's a very big but, there have been times when Epic Games wasn't totally honest with us. So for today's video, we're going to take a look at 10 different times Epic Games lied. If you're an OG player, you may remember some of these, but there could also be some that you may have forgotten about. And if you're a new Save the World player, hopefully this video helps you understand why a lot of current and former Save the World players are a little skeptical when it comes to Epic Games. Like always, if you learned anything new, be sure to smash that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, then check out the channel. And if you'd like to support me, be sure to use creator code A1. Also, I brought receipts. I will be leaving links in the description if you want to go check out some of these lies for yourself. Anyways, first up, we're going to start off with probably the biggest lie Epic Games ever told us.
The first big question from a lot of you on Twitter: when is Save the World going to go free? The front of our site says 2018, and as a few of you pointed out, it's 2018 right now. Well, the truth is we haven't figured out when this year we'll be making it free. There's a few more things that we need to test, especially with our ability to maintain and restore our back-end data. When we'll be free, there will be tons of people inside the system, and we need to know that we're prepared and ready to handle all that volume, all that load, so we can keep all your stuff, and if there's any problems, restore it.
So that clip was taken from a dev update video that was published back in January 2018. And right now, we're in June of 2025, and it is still not free, and it most likely never will be, because in June 2020 they released this post saying that Save the World will remain a premium experience rather than going free to play. Anyways, the second lie we're going to take a look at is in regards to the item shop coming to Save the World. Back in July 2019, they released a blog post where they answered the question, will there be an item shop in Save the World? And their reply was yes. We plan to add the item shop to Save the World once all cosmetics are available. At the moment, we're focused on adding the ability to use cosmetics you already own. So for now, you'll have to buy cosmetics through the BR store until the Save the World item shop goes live. And I guess technically we could still get an item shop in the future, but it's been 6 years since they said we were going to get an item shop. So until we actually get one, I'm going to consider this to be another lie. Now the third lie we're going to go over is about melee weapon wraps. Back in August of 2019, they released another blog post where they said, we haven't forgotten about melee. Melee weapon wraps require both additional code support and art passes on the entire melee weapon collection. Wraps are an extremely cool feature, and we want to make sure that they look good on every weapon that they can be applied to, especially melee. We're pushing forward to get this added, and we'll release melee weapon wraps alongside ranged weapon wraps or shortly after. And this is another one of those features I suppose we could see in the future, but it's been 6 years and we still haven't gotten it. So until we do, I'm going to consider this to be another lie. Now the fourth lie is in regards to the global and founders chat. 6 years ago they made this post on Reddit, and in this post they said, we will be disabling global and founders chat while we work on improvements to their functionality. Global chat and founders chat was introduced to be used as a group-oriented tool to engage and cooperate with fellow players. It has not accomplished these goals and has begun to affect performance. The team is heads down working towards making major improvements to the system, and we will enable global and founders chat when this work is complete. Now obviously there is a chat feature in the game, but it's not a global or founders chat. So for those who don't know, global chat used to allow you to talk to other Save the World players, even if they're not in your party or your friends list. They would just have to be on the same server as you. Same thing with the founders chat, except that chat only included people who purchased a Founders Edition. The reason it was removed is because people would spam links to other websites, and it could also make your game crash. So I understand why they removed it, but they also said that they will enable global and founders chat once they made improvements to it, which they never did. Now the next slide we're going to take a look at is about the Twine Peaks storyline. Now for those who've never played Save the World, when Save the World launched, there was a campaign for both Stonewood, which is the beginner zone, as well as Plankerton, which is the next zone you go to after Stonewood, but there wasn't a campaign or storyline for Canny Valley and Twine Peaks. They did eventually add a campaign for Canny Valley back in 2019, but they never added one for Twine Peaks, which is the hardest zone in Save the World. And a lot of people argue that they never said word for word that they were adding a storyline for Twine Peaks. But they did say this shortly after they released the Canny Valley storyline.
7.0 will be shipping Canny Valley Act 3. This will wrap up what we're calling the Stand and Fight campaign. This campaign takes us from the moment you activate home base up until the first truly decisive battle against the storm. While Canny Valley Act 3 will wrap up the Stand and Fight campaign, this is not the end of story in Fortnite. This is not the end of story in Fortnite. This is not the end of story in Fortnite.
So that was a fucking lie.
Now, this video was posted in December of 2018, and I'll admit they have added quest lines, but I wouldn't really consider those to be a part of the main story or campaign. Also, if you bought the disc version of Save the World, it came with this pamphlet that says, experience a never-ending story campaign that takes you and up to 3 friends all over the world. Needless to say, the story did end in Canny Valley. Also, back in September of 2017, they released a dev update video saying this.
Over time, we're going to continue to add to the narrative of Fortnite at the upper end. To give a sense of scale, the upper end of Twine is actually dwarfs the stuff that we've released up to this point. So it's actually quite a huge number of hours for the players. So it's going to take some time for us to deliver. We are working on putting that narrative together.
Lies! It's like you have to lie to live! You're a liabetic! You have liabetes!
So no, they never said word for word, you will get a campaign in Twine Peaks. They did say things like, this is not the end of story in Fortnite, as well as a never-ending campaign. And they also said, we are working on putting that narrative together when they were talking about Twine Peaks. But as we all know, we never got that Twine Peaks campaign. They eventually released this blog post in regards to the future of Twine Peaks that said they do plan on advancing the established story, but they never did, and most likely never will. Because in that same blog post, they said they're only going to give a light narrative support instead of starting a brand new campaign in Twine Peaks. So in my opinion, I consider this to be another lie. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Now, believe it or not, before Save the World was released, they did announce that Fortnite Save the World will be released on Steam, which is wild if you think about it, because they eventually made their own launcher called the Epic Games Launcher, which is a direct competitor of Steam. But before Fortnite was released, they did make an announcement saying that it will release on Steam during the first quarter of 2012. It looks like it was also supposed to release on Flash, PlayStation, and Xbox Live Arcade. So yeah, Fortnite Save the World never came to Steam, even though they announced that it would. So I would consider this to be another lie that Epic Games told us. And since we have this image up, there's actually 2 lies. They also announced that it would be released in the first quarter of 2012. For PlayStation, it would be the second quarter of 2012. Obviously, it ended up getting delayed, but they also announced in this article that it would be released in 2013. Now, as we all know, Fortnite Save the World didn't release until July 2017, and honestly, I don't consider this to be a bad thing. I'd rather wait until they have a more polished game on release instead of releasing something that isn't finished. But yeah, not only did they lie about Save the World coming to Steam, they also lied about the release date, which again, I don't really consider to be a bad thing. Same thing with this next lie. This is another one I'm sort of glad they lied about. In a blog post they released in June of 2020, they mentioned that over the coming months, Save the World will no longer be able to support all upcoming Fortnite BR cosmetic purchases, but your existing library of cosmetics will continue to function in both modes. We'll let everyone know via the home base status report when this change will take place. So according to that post, Save the World wasn't supposed to support all BR cosmetic purchases. And I guess technically there were a couple that we weren't able to wear in Save the World, like the Jack Skellington skin, for example. That wasn't supported in Save the World for a while because it would make the game crash. But they eventually fixed that, and as of right now, you can wear any BR skin in Save the World, so I'm kind of glad that they lied about this, because if it was true, we wouldn't be able to wear our BR cosmetic purchases and save the world. So that was actually a good lie, in my opinion. As for the 9th lie, this has to do with beta storms returning to save the world. According to this blog post, which was released in May of 2019, they mentioned that the beta storms have moved on for now. Look for them to return in the future. And the beta storms they're referring to were Lost in Transit and Test the Limits. Now I know Hunt the Titan mission is considered a beta storm, but that didn't release until last year. So I don't consider that to be one of the beta storms they were referring to when they said, look for them to return in the future. It's been over 6 years and we never got Test the Limit or Lost in Transit ever since they got removed. So that's why I consider that to be another lie. And here's the 10th lie that Epic Games told us.
The answer is definitely no.
Oh my god.
We love our founders.
Stop fucking lying.
It's our intent to continue to deliver updates to the campaign and also to continue to bring events just like Fortnitemares and Holiday Survival.
Now I guess this depends on what your definition of abandoned is. For the OG players, I'm sure you remember we used to get content what seems like almost every other week. We would get something new. But in June of 2020, they announced that they would slow down content for Save the World. And I'd say on average we now get maybe 1 or 2 new things every year instead of every other week. So yeah, I guess it depends on what your definition of abandon is. I know some people would argue that yes, that slowdown in content would qualify as Epic Games abandoning Save the World, while other people say, hey, you can still play Save the World, there's still bug fixes, and you know, maybe once or twice a year, you still get new content. So it hasn't been completely abandoned. But when I look at the current state of Save the World compared to what it was like after its release, it definitely feels like it's been abandoned. Maybe not completely, but in terms of new content, it's nowhere near what it used to be. And that's it. Those are 10 lies Epic Games has told us over the years. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding as to why a lot of Save the World players are skeptical when it comes to Epic Games. Although I do understand that sometimes business decisions need to be made. Sometimes you change your mind about certain things. I get it, but it doesn't change the fact that some of the things they said weren't entirely truthful. But that sums up everything we're going to go over for this one. Let me know what you think about Epic Games lies in the comments below. Again, if you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do it is by dropping a like on the video. Be sure to share and favorite it and use creator code A1. Also, before I go, I do want to give a shout out to Mystic for helping me compile this list. And I also wanted to give a shout out to our YouTube members. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day. And thanks for watching.